an attractive woman at 28 years old, right? That's, a 7, 8, 9, or 10, has got it pretty easy. Absolutely. Absolutely. Depending on what she's willing to do, though. That's the other thing, is what are you willing to do? Like, are you going to Anna Nicole Smith this and, like, hook up with some 75-year-old dude and just, like, bite the bullet, do what you got to do? Hey guys, back again. Pragmatic Ego Management, the PEM podcast. We'll do another episode. But think about some things. I had someone I was dating for a while, on and off, and I have different types of relationships now after my girlfriend passed, and for a long time I don't see relationships the same way other people do. And anyway, I was talking to this person. We kind of taken a break and gone in a little different directions, and she met someone, apparently went to Burning Man, felt like she was in love with this person, and then, saw his quote-unquote true colors. And problem with that is I think so many people are looking for the right one. And that's what I'm realizing the problem is. There's two different things going on with people, and they're trying to merge two ideas together. Someone that's a great business partner, someone that's a great maybe roommate, or someone you would live with and manage a home together, someone who is willing to abide by whatever your sexual restrictions are within the relationship. For most people, I think that's a serial monogamy. I think people try to claim monogamy, but they're lying to themselves. It's not. You're not monogamous if you've had more than one partner in your entire lifetime, so don't tell yourself you are. You're serially monogamous, which is a different thing. But that's the restrictions that I think people are expecting. And so you want all those things to happen. It's the character and personality of the person to match with those ideals. And then you want to feel like you're in love with the person. And those things don't align. Very rarely. I call those the lottery winners, when you find all of those in one person. Some people do have that happen for them, and that's a lucky thing. But I think when you look at the statistics on relationships, you find out how flawed an idea it really is. And it's because you're mixing ideas. You have to understand that love doesn't require anything from anyone. And this is from the Buddhist Dharma. The idea here is that you are not actually having a relationship with another human. You're only having relationships with yourself. And that's because you cannot control another human being. And if you attempt to, it's not love. There is nothing loving in controlling another human being, especially extremely forcefully. And you can see the desire for control in a lot of people, even in small interactions, that then lead to people desiring actual control over the other person's mind. I call it mind control. This happens in things like if someone is going to go out with their friends and the partner or romantic interest that they're with is not happy with the fact that they want to go out with their friends or do something. Then the other person might cave and say, okay, never mind, I'm not going to go out with my friends. And then what happens? You know how common this is. Well, now the partner is upset because it's no, forget it, because I know you still want to go out with your friends. So what they actually want is they want mind control. They want you to want and think exactly like they want and think in their own minds. And it's just not love. So it creates a major problem because love is not something that's based in other people's actions. We will say things like, oh, I thought I was in love with this person, I found the right person, and then they did X, Y, and Z, and now I realized I was wrong. It was not the right person. Then what happens is you go through the cycle again. Then you keep looking for the right person and looking for the right person. And maybe it's the right person for the next 10 years, and then you have a divorce, and you got a bunch of mess that comes with that. And maybe you had a couple kids, and now you got a family that's disintegrating and being split apart because of this idea that, oh, you weren't the right person. Okay, I guess we're just finding that out now. Let's call it quits. And that is the problem. The problem is you're trying to merge love with a bunch of other things that are really, in a way, business related. And they don't merge real well. So that's why kind of the idea of arranged marriages work about as good as regular Western romantic marriages. The arranged marriage almost makes more sense in a way, because really what it is it's a business interaction that you're engaging in. You're signing a contract, you're going into a business transaction, you're expecting behaviors from this person to match and align with your ideals. The problem is that that person is probably, either you're not going to be in love with them, or if you are, maybe they're not telling you the truth about who they are 100%. How many times have I talked about the bachelor party situations I've been in where these people are lying to their significant others about what they're up to while they're away, right? Sneaking off to get into trouble while the watchful eye of the authority figure, in this case the significant other, is not present. And that is a major problem. And I'm just seeing so many failures. So with this individual that I brought up, she went to Burning Man. She felt like she was in love with this person. This has happened to her many times. This is a common recurring theme with her. She finds out new information about this individual and their behaviors and what they're up to. And now it's, oh, I guess I was wrong. I guess it wasn't the right person. No, that's not true. That's not what's going on. Love is love. If you felt love for this person, that never changes. If you're honest with yourself and you don't paint a bunch of ugly pictures in your mind about who that person is, you just aren't great at managing the boundaries that are necessary in dealing with people and understanding the way the heart works, and that we're not in control of deciding who we love and who we don't love. So that was something I've been going through and kind of realizing, stop trying to find the right person. There's no such thing. There is a right person for jobs. There is a right person for maybe even managing a household. There are people who will align with you over your sexual restriction requirements. There is the right person for those things. It's very, very, very unlikely that that person that is right for those things is also someone you're going to fall in love with. That's where the problem begins. So anyway, that was just something I noticed. I had that interaction with this woman. She just came back from Burning Man, and that was her experience. And so, it kind of brought that topic back up for me. We're going to get into the video, see what we got. Let's see what we're dealing with today.
America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day. We were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world. The first time this century. What? But let's understand.
So where the are we right now?
Wow. Right. Yeah. I think there's probably hot spots all over the world that we have service members in danger at all times. So, yeah, that's... I'm never surprised by any of that, guys, and I don't follow any of this stuff because I'm very much on the George Carlin kind of side. I mentioned him before that I don't believe your vote really has much of an impact, whether it's red or blue. Maybe there's some impact on things like abortion and things like gun rights. Maybe, unless in the end, when you go far enough down the rabbit hole, it ends up in the same place and the same restrictions eventually arrive. I'm not so sure that the red side of things is actually that interested in maintaining our Second Amendment rights if you go far enough with it. I feel if they were to really lock down the power that they would love to have, I think you might see a change in attitude around, your Second Amendment rights and things like that. I'm not into the political side of things. I don't believe them. I don't believe what's coming out of their mouths. I see the incentive for, being elected and having these powerful interests fund these campaigns and put these people in positions of power and positions to make lots of money. A lot of these, political figures are put in strategic positions to make enormous amounts of money, either while they're in office or after they're out of office. And I just don't have a lot of faith in it. I'm rather cynical about the process because of the fact that private money is involved. If private money wasn't involved, I think I would feel very differently. If our campaigns were, during election periods, were funded solely and only by taxpayer dollars, and then each candidate was given an equal share. I've mentioned this before. I think I would see this very differently. There'd have to be a whole system worked out on how candidates were even emerged to be chosen in the first place. There'd be a lot of work that'd have to be done. But the way it is now, I have no faith in it. None. So it's just where I'm at.
You okay? You have bronchitis?
Huh?
I just want to let you know that that's very fucking cringe.
That's that one guy! He's that one! No! He's live streaming this! Oh my god! No! 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 I know you! I'm so good! Oh my god!
See you on TikTok.
Yeah!
So was there like some even before that, or
Like he just hops in. These interactions.
that's on that Omegle over
Yeah,
there?
they don't last very long at all. These interactions. A lot of times people skip and stuff. So he just got on there. He's wearing a mask, and she coughed. So he was like, "Do you have bronchitis or something?" And
Yeah.
she goes, "Shut up, you."
Yeah.
And then he pulls his mask off, and she recognizes him. He's got millions.
Because he's got so many followers.
Millions.
But I don't get why here's what I'm thinking. I get that he's got more clout, right? So he's going to be able to distribute this much further and wider, so she's screwed because of that.
Yeah.
But I think that I'm like, even me being a nobody or someone could post that video and it might still get huge traction.
100%.
So why would she do that? It's just so dumb.
Because most people aren't sitting on there to record for content.
Oh, so she's thinking she's just going to get away with that.
Regular person, yeah.
And that they're not recording. But that's just a stupid thing to assume. That's a dumb thing to assume. Now, we talked about this, so I'm going to focus on this more. This was something we talked about a couple episodes ago about that word and the fact that we've given it power, right? So that was like the most offensive thing she could say right there, I guess. And decided that was what she was going to say. I don't know why. I don't know why she would do that. I guess that's it. She wanted to offend him. She wanted to belittle this guy. She wanted to use that word for its shock value, I guess.
Cool, maybe.
Yeah, well, like I said, we've given it power by creating what I called in the last episode, that other episode, the Voldemort effect. He who shall not be named. That gives it power. It gives it power. So we've given words power by making them taboo. I don't know why society doesn't get that, or is it intentional? Right? Like, it's all these supposedly woke people that have taken certain vocabulary out of our, out of kind of the public psyche, or the ability to use words freely, and by doing so, they've made the words far more powerful, which is interesting that you wouldn't be able to see that. You know what I mean? Where now we're so offended by what she said there. I'm not even sure. Do you think she's a racist? Let's have that question. Let's have that. Is she truly a racist? Or was that like we don't know what she does behind closed doors and what the cultural situation is with her. Like, for instance, when I was a kid, there were lots of people who used that word and they laughed about it. Meaning, for them, I don't believe they saw, black people or any people of colors beneath them or anything, but they thought the word was funny. So they used the word. And they were not, in my opinion, truly racist. I don't think they would have discriminated against anyone over opportunity had they been put in places like that. We could debate about that, but the point is, like, is she really a racist, or was she using the word for its shock value? And now we've created a situation where someone who might, not truly be, racially polarized, we've created a situation where this is a major problem now, and I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I disagree with an aspect of it. Like I said, the idea that a particular set of words can be so offensive and harmful that someone can't handle the words themselves, I find to be ridiculous. However, the intentions behind the words for someone who uses certain words, that's a different story. If we're talking about discrimination against someone for, career opportunity, education, medical services, all the things that everyone should be entitled to at an equal level. Now we're talking about something totally different. Now we are talking about real racism and real deep negative impact and harm being done to people versus words. And I think our society's gotten confused and somehow made the words the most important things and not the actual discriminations and things that actually take place. I guess it's just easier to focus on people's words and then have a brittle spirit about it. I don't know. But I think, someone just saying a word, to me, I don't know how much of it is the generational trauma aspect. I do know that words carry baggage, so I'm not negating any of that. I think there's a lot of trauma and baggage on several words, The word God is one I've come back to oftentimes with people. That word has a lot of baggage and a lot of, trauma involved with that word right there. So, religious terminologies, things like that. There's a lot of words out there that carry baggage. And maybe I just can't relate fully to this word because I'm not someone who's been impacted to that level by it. So it's not fair for me to really say, and I don't want to make any assumptions here. But I do think at some point, I've been through things that have impacted me deeply. For instance, and this is the only way I can relate to this in one way, would be to talk about, the war on drugs and fentanyl and things like that. Because my girlfriend died from a drug overdose. And part of the cocktail drug she was on was opioids. This was before the fentanyl had really hit big, so it was heroin they found. And we had no idea she was using that drug. But I don't have anything against heroin. I don't have anything against opioids. Some people go through that experience of losing a loved one that they're deeply, deeply cared for, and then they go on this crusade and say that these are evil things and the drug dealers are evil and all this stuff. And I feel like this is in some way analogous also to what we're talking about with this word and things like that. So there's a difference. But what I'm saying is at some point you have to separate the trauma from the words, separate and process the trauma within yourself and realize that words are words. And to not, I think as long as we keep playing this Voldemort game with this stuff, we're somehow anchoring more trauma and anchoring more power into these particular words. And I think it's doing a disservice to society. I don't think it's actually helping it. I don't know the young lady that used that word there, and I don't know what kind of person she really is. So the whole thing is pretty wild to me, but I also think she's an idiot, and I also think she's unaware, and I think she made very poor choices there. Who knows what the full extent of those consequences were for her. And that's too bad. I don't know if I fully agree with it, actually. But I also think don't be a fucking idiot.
You okay? I'm good. I have Tourette syndrome.
Okay.
It'd be all right though, okay?
Okay.
I am a really good driver, okay?
All right.
There is no reason to worry at all, girlfriend, okay? We're going to get there safe and sound. Ah! So how does that feel? I freaking love you. Why'd you do that?
It was fun.
Good. Do what?
It was a fun experience.
Oh, well, good. I'm so glad.
Thank
You're
you
so
so much.
beautiful. Bye.
Yeah. So, Tourette's must be hard. I imagine that'd be difficult. I don't know anything about it. I don't know what causes it. It doesn't look like it's that easily treatable, so I imagine it's, yeah. I do know that on TikTok there's this young lady that has Tourette's and she does a bunch of stuff. So I've seen her channel.
That's the 1 hour.
Oh, we're at that 1 hour mark. Yeah.
That's so.
Yeah, it is a kind of
Just don't
annoying
play the
thing.
sound.
Yeah, right. Just interrupts you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the young lady handled it very well. Kind of a funny choice. I would not have chosen that. So I wonder if Tourette's feels like a hiccup kind of or something. You know what I mean? Like it's involuntary and it just kind of hiccup. You kind of have, it kind of looks like that's what it seems like a little bit.
When I'm super stressed out,
You get like a little,
I, like my
yeah.
eyes do this and like my head will twitch.
Right. So are they? And that's the other question is, and I guess we'd have to ask the people that are dealing with Tourette's if stress is part of it. I imagine it is. I bet it is.
Yeah.
Stress affects everything, right? So, and any type of social awkwardness, does that make it harder too? You got someone, Uber's got to be, being an Uber driver, I haven't done it, but I imagine it could be a little awkward. You get all different types of people in your vehicle, strangers, and do they want to talk? Do they not want to talk? Can be interesting, and especially for someone with Tourette's. And then you've got Tourette's, and that's going to be, it's going to come out, right? And then that may add to the stress, is my point, and the social awkwardness. And then how is someone going to react? And so she reacted quite well. I don't know. Like the scaring thing, they say if you scare someone, right, maybe the reason it made me think of hiccups is because they say that's one way to get rid of hiccups, is like scare someone, right? I don't know that it works. Because it's kind of hard to know if, did you really scare someone? Are they really startled? I don't know. But, yeah, that was cool. She didn't have a strange reaction to it or get all weird with her. So, yeah, it's too bad people aren't more like that. That's would be nice if people were a little less heavy and, didn't take things so personal all the time. It's one of the things, like, you could tell right away with the Uber driver, she's concerned, like, I hope my rider, my passenger, doesn't think that I'm dangerous. Because, she's twitching a little bit where you yank the wheel or something, and so that the whole thing would be hard, but she didn't show any signs of that. So I imagine you would look at the situation and go, this woman's clearly not a young woman. She must have been driving her whole life. I'm sure we're going to be all right. Anyway, yeah, that was pretty cool. That was nice. She handled that well.
Who has it harder, men or women?
It's men by a mile in every
Really,
arena.
you truly believe that?
In every arena of life, they have it harder. I can tomorrow be unemployed, and there will be a man in my life at some point that will say, I'll look after you, whether that's my dad, my brother, or my partner. Somebody will say, a man can absolutely hate his job, hate his appearance, have terrible relationships with his family, and not one person, no one's coming, no one's saving him.
Nobody.
And it's
all up to
heartbreaking,
him.
yeah, because one thing I've noticed is, for me personally, if I'm forcing myself out of bed in the morning to go to work, I'll just say, I don't like this job, I'm quitting. And then I think there's men out there who have that experience all day, every day, up until they're 70 years old, and think if they don't go to work, kids don't eat. And there's women that experience that too. But the pressure on a man is completely different. Completely different.
It's too black and white. It's funny, the video's in black and white. First of all, it's a certain type of women that can count on that. They're attractive. The ugly ones, no. So that's where we already have a problem here. Attractive women get treated differently. But there's examples also of attractive men being treated differently too. Attractive people do better. They get more from society, from the world. Being attractive is a huge bonus. There's no doubt about it. I think turning it into a gender issue, attractive women, as compared to attractive men, I think have far more benefit than the attractive men do. Let's put it in that context. But there is a turning point for women as they get older. I think that's another thing. We're looking at this too much in a specific moment in time. We're talking about attractive women in their prime. An attractive woman at 28 years old, right? That's, a 7, 8, 9, or 10 has got it pretty easy. Absolutely. Absolutely. Depending on what she's willing to do, though. That's the other thing. Is what are you willing to do? Like, are you going to Anna Nicole Smith this and, like, hook up with some 75-year-old dude and just, like, bite the bullet, do what you got to do to get whatever the financial, benefit is? I mean, it doesn't have to be that extreme, right? I think what women often are doing that are attractive, and I meet them all the time, they want a guy they're attracted to, that they have fun with, that they get all kinds of personal benefit from being around, and then they want to get paid on top of that, have their bills covered, have that safety net, have all these extras on top of what they're already benefiting. I call it the Tom Sawyer effect. I had this chick one time. If you guys know the story of Tom Sawyer, there's a part of that book when his aunt or whoever he's living with, his stepfather, I forget what it is. He has to paint the fence. They call it whitewashing in the book, but he has to whitewash the fence. He hates it. He absolutely hates it. But he's a very intelligent boy, so he comes up with this idea, and he goes out and he starts whitewashing the fence while all his friends are going off to catch frogs in the river. And this is like in the South somewhere. I don't know what state, Mississippi or something like that. Some crappy slave state with Jim Crow laws or whatever. Some fucked up place. But he's down there, and they're going to catch frogs, and then he isn't going to be able to go with them because he's got to paint the fence. And so he starts painting the fence, but he starts whistling and acting like he's having a great time. And the kids that are on their way to go play and have fun down at the river, they stop by and they're like, "Hey, Tom, you coming with us?" He's like, "Oh, no, man, I'm painting the fence." They're like, "Oh, too bad for you." He's like, "No." And he tells them he loves it. "Oh, I love painting this fence. It's the most fun thing there is. I love whitewashing this fence." He's whistling. He's like acting like he's having a good time. And the kids are like, "Yeah, right." And he's like, "No, I love this. I wouldn't go with you guys no matter what. This is what I want to do." And he eventually convinces them that's the case. And they're like, "Well," they get curious and like, "Well, I kind of want to try and see if that's true." And he's like, "Oh, no. I would never let you, like, this is what I want to do. I want to paint the fence. I'm not just going to let you do the thing that I find as the most fun thing to do and take it from me." And they're like, "Oh, okay, well, how about if I pay you a nickel?" And that's where it ends up. And he ends up getting all of these neighborhood kids to pay him to do a chore that he hates doing. And so he manipulates them into paying him to do this job for him, which is just awesome. And it's a great scene in the book. Mark Twain's an interesting writer, and he used the taboo word a lot, which is interesting. But anyway, he wrote this story, and I've seen it played out a little bit differently. But for instance, I was dating a woman who we had an arrangement of sorts, and I would pay bills and things like that. And she preferred a certain type of sexual interaction. I want to make sure I say what I can say on here. I'm pretty sure I can say this. She preferred anal, and I don't prefer that. That's actually not something I'm into. Now, I got a lot of friends who are. I got a lot of friends who like, guy friends who are like, "Oh, that's their thing. They like that," or whatever. It was never really my main gig or whatever. Well, she tried to paint this picture for me because this particular month, whatever was going on, she needed extra money and she wanted other stuff and she wanted to go shopping and she wanted all these things. And so she threw a kind of fit and she was acting weird with me. And I got kind of fed up because I had driven way up. I was in Washington at the time. I had driven way up to Semiyama. It's far. And she gave me kind of these headaches about the thing. And then she was being a pain in the ass. And so I got pissed and I left. Well, we had this discussion later where she called me and she was like upset that things didn't work out. And I was like, "Look, I'm not, we've already got a great arrangement going on. Now you're trying to do some weird shit and play coy with me. I don't have time for that. I'm not going to play these games with you." And what she ended up doing was telling me how she was giving me all these great benefits and that one of them was the sexual preference. She's like, "Oh, I'm going to let you do all this stuff with me. I'm going to let you do this to me." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't want to do that. Like, that's not even what I'm not trying to do that." And what she was trying to get me to pay her to do what it is that she likes. You see what I mean? And that's really funny. And I think that happens a lot with really attractive women, that they're getting benefit, personal benefit, maybe they like whatever it is, they find the guy attractive, they're into whatever it is, and on top of that, they want to see financial benefit as well. And then they try to paint a picture of like, oh, but I'm giving you all this value, I'm giving you all this benefit myself, like, can't you see that? And it's like, wow, that goes on, that's what's going on. So absolutely attractive women have a lot going for them, but that changes, and eventually they're not attractive anymore. And once that changes, and if they haven't secured a husband and secured a family and secured those things, or at the very least secured a serious career and have made a retirement for themselves, and even then, I think, we're all social creatures, but it seems, I don't know how, I don't want to make that a gender thing either. Who is it more difficult for living alone in life? Meaning, is it harder to be a bachelor aging man, or is it harder to be a spinster aging woman? I think it's harder to be the spinster aging woman, actually. An older man, especially if you've got a little money in your pocket, you can get laid, you can find companionship, you can do those things. That older woman can't. It is way more difficult for her unless she has a little money herself, and even that's harder, like find some like young guy. There are young guys. I think there's a flavor for everyone. People out there like all kinds of things, and there's some young guys out there like older women, I think, even far older women maybe, but it's much, much slimmer. You're not getting the same attention. You're not getting the same, guys swooping in ready to, pay your bills and do all this. No, that is not happening for you as an older spinster woman. So I don't agree with this idea that it's harder for one sex than the other. If you say it's harder for men in their 20s than women in their 20s, I might be more willing to agree with that. We need to slim this down a bit. Is it harder for young men than young women? Yes, it's definitely harder. Absolutely. Is it harder for women and men in general over the course of a lifetime? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's accurate. So, I think there's a lot more dissection that needs to go into that.
It's like, bro, once you really sit down and think about it, everything in this motherfucker is designed for motherfuckers to fail. Like, I'm sitting here waiting to get my truck loaded so I can start my fucking day, for the company that barely pays me enough to, keep my life together, slightly. And I can't just abruptly leave this motherfucker because where else am I gonna get the money from? Like, I truly believe that I'm talented enough to, make something happen and make something shake in like maybe 6 months to a year from now. However, where is that initial funding gonna come from? See what I'm saying? Food is bad for you. It's highly chemicalized, highly addictive, highly sugarized, and highly everything bad for you arised. And if you look up any health article, it tells you that you can't eat any of the shit that you eat on a daily fucking basis. But 9 times out of 10, that's either all you can afford or that's all that's available. Hospital bills is a fucking scam. Insurance is a fucking scam. Rent is a scam. Mortgages are scams. Just living in general is a fucking scam. The majority of ways to make enough money really fast are very unethical and highly illegal. Yet the people who call it illegal are the ones who do it the fucking most. That's the craziest fucking part. You gotta hope your car doesn't fucking break down, because if it does, a mechanic's gonna hold the shit for months because he or she is backed up forever. And it's like, okay, you got my car, how the fuck am I supposed to get to and from? They tell you to save and invest and all this shit, but it's like you taking that investment as a risk. Now, you can't win life without taking a risk. However, if the shit don't work out, you're fucked. A lot of people stay up late as a bitch knowing they gotta be to work tomorrow early as hell in the morning, only because their job took away the majority of their day, and the only way for them to feel some type of control over their life is to stay up past the point in which they know they need to go to sleep to get a productive day the next day. I can't remember exactly what that phrase is called, but it's a real thing. And then on top of that same subject, most people who do that, they stay up late because they don't want to go to work the next fucking day. This shit is a fucking scam, bro. And after all of this bullshit, you still got to get up and produce something. Whether you're man or woman, you still have to get up and produce something. Because if you do nothing, you're pretty much just going to be on the street. And it's like, knowing all that shit, bro, sometimes Sometimes that shit gets to you, man. Sometimes it gets to you, but I can tell you this. Even though all of this bullshit is a real thing, and yeah, it does get to me too, I refuse to let this shit bring me down. I refuse. I refuse because I know deep inside my fucking head, and it's more so on the forefront now. It used to be deep, but now it's like right up in here. I know for a fact that one of these days, none of this shit is going to matter because I'm going to be in such a great position in my life that I'm going to be able to look back and be like, damn, I went through all this bullshit and struggle that the world just threw at me, and I came out on top. That may sound cartoonish, that may sound far-fetched, that may sound all kind of whatever the fuck you can think of. However, that's the only thing that keeps me fucking going. That is the only driving force in my life right now. It's not to be the best, it's not to be the greatest, it's not to be this, that. It is to get to the top of the fucking mountain through my own efforts and then show people that it's possible. Right? That's the only thing that's keeping me going right now. You gotta find something to keep you going in this fucking crazy ass world we live in, bro. You gotta find something.
Well, that thing that's keeping him going is either a pipe dream that he just fantasizes about every day, or he's doing something about it. Because if he's just hoping that that's going to happen, it's not. If he's just driving that truck for whoever he's driving for, Amazon, FedEx, UPS, whoever he's driving for, some other trucking company or delivery system, he's just going to keep driving that unless he's taking steps, unless he's taking daily steps and making sacrifices and saving money and doing things. Otherwise, yeah, you're stuck. You're stuck in the rat race. You're stuck in the maze. You're not getting out, and it's getting harder. It's getting harder and harder. One of the reasons it's getting harder is just more people. You just got more competition. You got more that you're up against. For those who crack the code and are able to provide a product or something that grabs the attention of the masses, you rise to the top. And that's what the dream is, right? But it means that there's, far less people at the top and just masses and masses of droves of people just stuck in the maze. The only way out of that rat race is either some very high-paying position, the old, successful attorney, successful doctor, successful, Wall Street, banker, those particular jobs where you actually do work for another, interest, but you're getting compensated so well that you're able to, save real money, real life-changing money over the course of 10, 20 years to where you could unhook from that matrix maze. But outside of those select positions, also, professional athletes, another one of those, if you can make it in there. But it's funny, like, I forget the guy's name. Man, it was just today I saw a video on it. So some rapper just got busted in Atlanta, a $200 million drug bust. I think they found, it wasn't as much fentanyl as I thought they would find in something like that. But it was something like 14 kilos of fentanyl, 51 kilos of cocaine, I don't know, 1,400 pounds of marijuana. It was a huge thing. And this guy, I don't know what this guy's name was. Anyway, he was a rapper. He worked with different people. I think they mentioned the name Gucci Mane and a couple other people. And but he's busted now on a major drug bust. And what this individual's channel was talking about is he was saying that the rap game is getting harder. That over the past 7 or 8 years or so, up to the present, that the opportunities aren't there the same way they were in the hip-hop market space. And so a lot of these rappers that started out in these different types of hustles that are very illegal are going back to them. And that could be the truth. I don't know. I just see the world as it's definitely getting more competitive. It's definitely getting harder on all levels. That might be partly because I live here in California and it's extremely competitive here. And pricing on everything is absurd here. Housing is completely unrealistic. It's insane to try and survive and make it happen. You have to have side hustles, multiple side hustles going, just to keep afloat here. It's I don't know what the situation is. I think sometimes you get into these areas of the conspiracy side of things, like who are the puppeteers pulling the strings. And there are some people pulling some strings. There are some major corporations that are pulling the strings in order to maintain their positions of power and their positions of massive wealth. And we know that they're not paying taxes, right? That's the big thing that's going on right now. We have these huge corporations, billions and billions of dollars. They are not paying taxes. And the paradigm is, the structure is that the wealthy don't pay taxes. The middle class are really solely responsible for all the taxes that get paid. And the poor people, I think it's a joke that George Carlin made. Who made this joke? I think it was him. He said, poor people are just there to scare the shit out of the middle class and to keep them working hard and keep them paying those taxes. And the problem is the wealthy don't pay the taxes. If we had wealthy paying taxes, wow, what a different circumstance that would be. Just from a perspective of at least social programs, including, he mentioned the healthcare bills and those being a scam. They are. I actually went to the hospital in Las Vegas after drinking way too much. And I mean, I drank way too much. One of the more fun times I had with Nicole when she was alive, we spent 8 hours in a bathroom much of the time talking and just hanging out and drinking. And we drank like 2/5 between the two of us at least. That night, we got like a steak dinner, and we passed out, and by midnight I was awake, sweating bullets, and headed straight to the hospital. I went straight to Sunrise Medical, and it was an EDC weekend, so it was the big festival there. And the hospital that I went to was the closest one, was in a rougher neighborhood. Most of the people there that I saw were black and were sick and were older. And it's really sad what was going on because of what happened later. I didn't get treated, so they gave me the normal vital tests, everything like that, had me sit in the waiting room, and I was sick as a dog, just dying. And I just kept going to the vending machine and buying, they had Powerades, they didn't have Gatorade. So I'm drinking Powerades and just puking in the bathroom and drinking Powerades and water. And I was there at midnight. By 6 a.m. I had not been treated. I finally got a cab and went back to the hotel and was still sick for 2 more days because I just way overdid it. I think we drank more than 2/5 actually. We drank almost a whole handle and a fifth of Patron, so we drank so much. And anyway, I got a bill later. A few weeks later, I got a bill for, I think it was $4,600. Sunrise Medical billed me for doing very basic tests on me. I think they did some vitals, they took blood pressure, right? They did just the intake stuff, nothing else. Took my temperature, and then they tried to charge me $4,600. And lucky for me, I'm in a different bracket in society than a lot of those sad people of color really are, because those people I'm sure didn't have an attorney on retainer. I had an attorney on retainer, so I went to her immediately and I said, look, this is what happened. It's bullshit. I want you to write them a letter. She wrote them a threatening letter. All of those charges, I didn't pay a dime. They dropped it immediately. That's what bullshit we're dealing with out here. Now, that's not always the case. I'm not going to say every single hospital does that. That's when we get into the conspiracy stuff that I think goes a little too far. How nefarious is the system, right? I think what we have, there was a good series with, I think the guy's name's Adam Conover, and he did a series with Obama. And Barack Obama and him were like the hosts. It was kind of funny because they would open the show and Obama would be at his desk like filling out his taxes. And it was like this little scripted thing, but it was kind of funny. And what they were talking about was all of the public programs that our taxpayer dollars fund. Things like the FDA and why the FDA was implemented. Things like the National Weather Service and how we started the National Weather Service and what we're entitled to there. And several other things. I think maybe they might have talked about the Postal Service. They talked about a bunch of each, and there was a few episodes. I forget how many. It was kind of short series. And when you looked at the history of these things, like the FDA was started for good reasons. There was really nasty stuff going on. Rotten meat was being sold to people. Facilities that were raising pigs and pork were just really disgustingly dirty. People were getting very sick. There was no regulation on products and medicines. I mean, you could end up taking anything. I mean, it would have been a scary thing, you know. People could just put whatever they wanted in a medicine and sell it to you as some sort of remedy, and you could find yourself dying from something like that. And so the FDA had really good reasons for starting, but then over time with lobbyists, and this is what they did a good job in the show, and it gave me a different insight a little bit even into Obama. Like, I'm not anyone who is, you know, buys into our political structure because I see how tainted it is, to the point where I'm very cynical about it. But watching Obama talk about the history of these things and how they've been eroded, that what has happened is like these large pork farmers, these huge corporate farming entities are lobbying to be able to remove the FDA from the inspection of their facilities, their slaughterhouses and their places where they're raising these pigs, and do it themselves, self-policing, right? We know how well that goes. And they're lobbying hard. They're spending a lot of money to do it, and it's eroding, you know, the purity of the FDA and the ethical structure of the FDA. And that, of course, has happened with pharmaceutical companies and, you know, with food-producing companies. You know, this gentleman talked about poison food. That's how this is happening. It started from a good place. I think it's well-intentioned, but you have people that begin to make a lot of money and have power, and they begin to inject their influence into the political structure, and that has a powerful effect. Same thing's going on with the National Weather Service. Our taxpayer dollars pay for all the satellites, all of the weather equipment that does the bulk of the forecasting and analysis of our weather systems out there. But these other companies like AccuWeather and I don't know all the companies out there, they are attempting to lobby the federal government to make it so that we have to pay them for the weather data that they provide, and remove access for us, the general public, to the National Weather Database. That's what they're lobbying to do. So something that's free, that's really, it's not free because our taxpayer dollars pay for it, but something that's really a part of the social benefits that we should have from our taxes. These private interests, corporate interests, are using their large wealth to lobby to change that so that we don't even have access to the things that we pay for with our taxpayer dollars. And then it all seems like a scam. Then you end up with this cynical viewpoint of it's all a scam, it's all bullshit. But it's not that simple. My point is, it's not like some Dr. Claw that's at the top of all this, that's just headed towards world domination and subjugation. It's not that simple. There's a lot of different players involved that are very powerful, have a lot of money, and want to benefit and find their own benefit. They're trying to get their own profit and benefit out of the situation. And through that happening over decades and even maybe hundreds of years, you start to see the erosion of what once was a great idea. And I think that's where you have to see that and then come together and implement structures that prevent that from happening, which, as I keep saying, we need to remove private money from the political structures. So there are people out there who mean well. I refuse to go to a place where I think it's all just shit. That's not the case. It isn't all just shit. I just watched these congressmen rip into the head of the ATF, the director of the ATF, over the Malinowski case. Was amazing, these guys. Jim Jordan and a few of these other congressmen, we should look at that one. It's so good. Because what happened, I don't know, for those of you who aren't familiar, Malinowski was a guy who was a gun enthusiast and a hobbyist. He had collected over 140 guns or something like this. He sold some guns and traded some guns. The ATF decided to do a surveillance on him and decided to raid him, said that he was not following the law and he needed a FFL in order to do what he was doing, federal firearms license. And it was very gray, and we don't even know what the exact requirements are. What changes it from you being a hobbyist and someone who just trades and sells guns to someone who should really require an FFL because that's your sole and main way of making a living? It's rather gray, and the ATF keeps changing their ruling. And so Malinowski was murdered basically because they served a no-knock search warrant at 6 a.m. at his house and kicked in his door, and he came down with a gun, rightly so. They cut the power to his place, put tape over his Ring door cam, so there was no way he could have been able to tell who was in his house, and they didn't wear body cams. And the local this was in Arkansas, I believe. This guy, just to give it even more context, was the director of the Arkansas, whatever city that was, airport. This guy made $270,000 a year as an employee, as a governmental employee, as a director of that airport. Is he running an illegal gun ring? No, he's got a great job. He's not running an illegal gun ring. He just got involved with guns because his father passed away and inherited some guns, and he had a bug for it. He was always a collector. He was a stamp collector. He was a coin collector. He collected everything. Sadly for him, he got involved with collecting guns, and it ended in his death. And these congressmen lit up that ATF director. It was the best thing I've ever seen. They lit him such a new asshole. We should watch that, because they ripped into that guy because he just didn't want to answer their questions. They were like, what were you hiding? Why were you not wearing body cams? Why was local Arkansas PD not wearing body cams when it's their policy and they do in every other interaction? Why did you cover the door cam? Why did you not go and serve the warrant when he wasn't home, when he was at work, and avoided any violence at all? Why serve a warrant at this time? And serving a warrant to someone you know has guns in the house. You know that's the whole reason you're serving the warrant. And you're going to kick in a door at 6 a.m? And these congressmen, they lit that dude such a fucking new asshole. You got to watch that. It was so good to watch it. I was happy, and that's my point. It's not as nefarious as some of the conspiracy people make it out to be. There are conspiracies out there, absolutely. The CIA has done some ugly things. Private corporations have done ugly things. Purdue Pharma has done ugly things. Big Tobacco did horrible things. The medical experiments that were done on African Americans was horrific. There's been all kinds of conspiracies, but my point is, it's not from the top down. It's not like the very marrow of leadership of this country are the ones who have done this kind of stuff. It's these different groups that are engaging in their own personal benefit, but it erodes the full structure over time. So my point is, it's way more dynamic than this idea that there's an evil over-guiding force, unless you look at it metaphysically, and I do look at it metaphysically. My shaman that I've been talking with calls this entity the obsessor, and Christians might refer to that entity as Satan. But if you want to go down that road, we can, but that's not what but without going down that road, what I'm saying is not everyone's bad, not all government's bad, not every cop's a piece of shit. It's way more complicated and mess. It's actually more messed up than that in the end. It's a mixed soup of just mess, and that's what really is going on. So anyway, yeah. All right, guys, that was an interesting one. Yeah. I mean, a lot of ideas there, right, about society. What is it harder for men or women? Is all of society just a wreck? What's really going on with our experience within our social structures? I think a lot of that was there. The use of certain kinds of language. I was going to say foul language. I wouldn't even call that. I would call that a whole other category of language, right? A lot of ideas there about, I would say, the structure of our society and its many flaws. And are we choosing the right direction, right? Like, we don't agree on what the right direction is. We have some people who think you shouldn't be able to say certain words, and if you do, that should destroy your whole life. My question is that effective? We had a guy who screams at the police and, basically disrespects them to the nth degree as much as he possibly can. Is that effective? This idea, is it harder for men or for women? We don't look at it deeply enough to understand that, yes, in some cases it is, but it's not so simple as to just say a blanket statement. We're not taking a deep enough dive into a lot of these topics, and people just choose a belief side. So they just choose a side, and I think that's happening. It's very appropriate to look at that through the lens of the upcoming election. People just hear statements and then choose to believe them. It's weird because people lie a lot. I forget, someone made a statistic that I heard recently, and I need to look it up, but I think it was was it in a movie somewhere? I think it was in a movie I watched or something. Yeah, it was in a movie. It's something like crazy. It's something like you're lied to 200 times a day or something. I don't think that is accurate necessarily, but I think it's that we're lied to a lot. Little white lies, little all kinds of lies. Lying is happening every single day all over the place, and yet we're so quick to just believe what comes out of people's mouths. It's a very strange thing. And so we're coming up on this election, and I think a lot of people are just believing what's coming out of people's mouths. And we saw that with the clip with Kamala talking about we don't have any armed service members in any dangerous combat zones. Weird thing to say. I mean, is that, and here's the thing with that, is that a nefarious thing? Like she's like, let me misguide the American people, or is she just selling? You know what I mean? Like overselling herself so that she gets elected, saying statements way over the top. And I guarantee people heard that on the blue side and went, yeah, look at how great we're doing. There's no armed service members in any, dangerous hot zones on the planet. And just believe that statement. So that oversale for some people worked. For others, she may have lost votes on that. I don't think it's a wise strategy. But I don't know that it was, my point is I don't know that it was a nefarious thing. I just think maybe she's caught up in the moment and believed because we pulled out of Afghanistan when Biden was in office that there wasn't anyone anywhere else. I don't know. I don't know how she arrived there. But I think we give ourselves too much credit. As humans, I don't think we're all that bright, honestly. I don't think we're that smart. When you give this idea that it's all conspiracies and all very intentional, I don't think we're actually that smart. Sometimes it is. Don't get me wrong. There are smart people out there and there are conspiracies happening. Absolutely. But I think they're rarer. And even when they do happen, I think they're messier than we portray them in movies and, intrigue series, drama series where we watch these complex conspiracies unfold. Sometimes they are. I'm not saying they don't exist. Of course it happens. We've got people who have built spacecraft that go into space and surveillance things with satellites, and we've got people very capable of doing sophisticated things. But I just think it's more messy than that. It's a lot of moving parts that are going on, and not everyone that's involved with everything is super intelligent. I'm not sure that our political candidates that we're seeing right now all of them are that intelligent. I can tell you from watching those congressional hearings, especially with the ATF, some of those guys are very, very intelligent, and thankfully so. Anyway, that's what I see, guys. It's messier. It's a messy world. Maybe don't take it so personally, but also don't believe what everyone tells you. That's where I'm going to leave it.